Hello and welcome to a Sunday edition of Plate Stack Chat. As always, my name is Jason and I'm joined by a wonderful guest. But first, a quick thank you to Strivey for their support. And if you want to see how they can help you log and track your workouts and progress, head to strivey.app to find out. Today's guest is another incredible athlete coming out of Brazil who battled through injuries to compete at the highest level within CrossFit, having made 2 appearances at the CrossFit Games, as well as competitions like the Dubai Fitness Championship. So if you've watched any of these events, you will probably have seen her. And just to make it easier for you to spot her on the live stream, she usually likes to add a pop of color to her hair. Joining us now from Abu Dhabi, it is Julia Kato.
Hello.
Hi, Julia. How are you? And we've
I'm
got,
good.
are we green in the hair these days? Is that the color? There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like green bluish.
Green. Yeah. It's fun going back through like your Instagram profile to see different events you've been at and sort of what color you chose for the different events.
Yeah, I kind of like it to do it. Before I used to do much more, but when I moved here to Abu Dhabi, you just get lazy to do this stuff because I don't have too much time.
Yeah.
But I decided it was time for a change.
Time for a change. Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, interesting. So you get lazy doing these things. What's like a typical day like for you these days? Then now that you're, I mean, but you've been in Abu Dhabi for a while, right?
Yeah, so I came to Abu Dhabi in 2021, but I started working in another place, so it was
Right.
like another city here. And I moved to Abu Dhabi in 2023.
Right. Oh, not that
Yeah,
long then. Okay. I kind of
yeah,
feel like you've been there for, yeah. Okay. Interesting. So that, what's like a
yeah.
typical day like for you now that you're there? Because I think you're coaching, right?
Yes. So I'm not a full-time coach in just one gym anymore. I've been doing freelancing
Right.
and personal training. So I usually have one class in the morning and then evening, afternoon, it depends. It might go up to 5 classes sometimes like three. So it really depends.
Okay. So I read a comment that you were sort of, I think it was more talking about like going to the game, like your journey to getting back to the games last year and kind of overcoming some injuries and problems that you've had. And you were talking about just like enjoying the process, trying to kind of just enjoy training, enjoy what you're doing. Is that still kind of the motto? Is that still your approach to fitness these days?
Absolutely. Because after the games last year, I had a very bad time. Like, I would say I still have a bad time sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not fully recovered, I can say, I think. And it took me very long to get back on training, to be honest. Like, just didn't feel like training, didn't want to work out at all. I was just like working and just not enjoying the things. So it took me long to go back until I got invited to compete in Dubai and some other competitions I had in December and January. So it was hard like training for these competitions, and it is still hard to like find enjoyment in training to compete. And I think that's also one of the reasons I didn't want to do the open this year and not doing the season this year. And also another injury that I had before the games from last year that I'm still like kind of dealing with.
All right. Wow. So not easy. Um, so I mean, I'd noticed that you were doing the Open this year, so your season, I kind of then scratched that side of the season off for you, if that makes sense. So I was like, okay, clearly that's not something you wanted to pursue. Um, have you got plan? I mean, now you've mentioned an injury as well. So is this just like a whole year that you're kind of taking off, or have you got some events sort of lined up, a kind of strategy of how you plan to approach this year as an athlete?
Yeah, so for this year, I don't have a plan to be honest because we're still trying to figure out what to do. I have an injury on my knee. It's a
Right.
meniscus injury. So we're trying to my doctor didn't want to go for surgery, so we're trying some other stuff to see if I can get away without surgery, but I don't think it's going to be possible. So we're probably talking about like 6 months of recovery. So I don't have anything planned. I'm just doing high rocks in April, and that's it.
Okay. I like that Hyrox is just like a little Sort of, yeah. Oh, it's a high rock, so I'll just quickly knock that off in April. But despite a knee injury, that's a lot of running. High rocks.
Yeah, but to be honest, like for some time, like in last year in November, in December, the only thing I could do like pain free was running.
Oh, right, okay.
Funny enough. Yeah. So
Where are you doing the high rocks?
it's in Sharjah. It's an emirate here.
Okay, is that the first one they've done in Emirates?
No, the first one was in Dubai. They're gonna have this
Right.
one in Sharjah, and they're gonna have also one here in Abu Dhabi, but I'm not sure the date.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking to someone the other day, and I could remember they were talking about like the directions that High Rocks was like expanding, and they were doing a kind of a different fitness thing, and sort of trying to see like what markets they should be targeting. And so we were having this conversation. I couldn't remember I couldn't remember if they said that High Rocks had made it out like into kind of Dubai yet or not, but clearly they have. Okay. Looking forward to that then. You're just
Yeah,
doing
to be
a
honest, yeah.
single one, or are you doing it as a pair?
I'm doing as a pair with
Oh,
Gemma from South Africa.
okay.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Have you had a chance to kind of train together much?
Not yet. I think we're both like kind of stubborn about it, so
Right.
I don't think neither of us are training that much for it, but it's gonna be fun. We're just doing for fun. She's also like in another space now, like I am, so it's gonna be nice.
Yeah. Do you think, like, you say you're doing it for fun, but do you think when you're actually on the floor and it's kind of go time, it will still be for fun, or do you feel like that competitive kind of nature that the majority of elite level athletes have will kick in, and you'll be like, yeah, it's for fun, but we should also really be doing our best and destroy this?
Yeah, I mean, it always kicks in. Like all these competitions I did in December and January, I was like, nah, I'm just doing it for fun. But then when you're in the middle of the workout, like of course I get super competitive, but I know I don't have the fitness to push that much for it. So it's a little bit frustrating when you're doing a CrossFit competition. But I think for High Rocks it's gonna be not that bad
Yeah.
because it's just one long workout.
Yeah, and as you say, if you've done a lot of running, that's usually maybe the thing that for like a CrossFit athlete going into High Rocks, that sometimes will be the kind of, I mean, everything else, like the wall balls are light, the sled push is fine, the burpee broad, like that's all stuff that you would do that times 10 in a workout kind of thing. But
Yes.
then it's all the running in between. So if you've been running a lot anyway, you're kind of, sounds like you're prepped and ready for that. Well, I hope you
Hope so.
enjoy it. Hope you have fun.
Thank you.
Do you think that could be the thing then, if you do enjoy it? If you go and you're like, oh, it was fun to. I mean, I guess the injury is a kind of a tricky thing, because even if you like fall in love with competition again, you've still got an injury, so that's sort of an obstacle you've got to overcome. I was thinking, like speaking with Erica Folo a few weeks ago, like, and Wadapalooza, and she was saying kind of after semifinals and the disaster that she had, she didn't think she was going to go back on like there was a chance she was not going back on the competition floor. So for her, even if she didn't win Wadapalooza, just being back on the floor doing well was like a huge victory, and now she could, now she's like determined to go back on the competition floor kind of thing. But I guess for you, there's a balance of, well, even if I love competing again, I got to be careful.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, it's different when you're training for High Rocks and training for CrossFit because I might be wrong, but I feel like you're less prone to injuries. I don't know.
What, training for
Just
High Rocks?
because,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I
Well,
don't know. I might be wrong.
didn't you already kind of like switched your training due to an injury in the past, right? Because you kind of went all in
Yes.
on sort of weightlifting and strength training because of was it like tailbone injury? Was that the one?
When
Or
I switched it to no, it was on my shoulder.
shoulder. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just remember hearing that, yeah, you'd sort of hardly done any like CrossFit
Yeah.
training. You were just, isn't that how you ended up kind of in Abu Dhabi anyway? Was that not through the weightlifting?
No, actually, no,
No.
no.
Oh.
I came here to be a CrossFit coach.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah. So I came to the UAE to be a CrossFit coach, not to be an athlete.
All right.
So I've never been a full-time athlete.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's always interesting, even how do you define that, right?
Yeah.
Within the world of CrossFit, like who is a full-time athlete? And it's sort of, even, it's a simple thing almost of like, well, are they paid just to be an athlete? And you're like, well, no one's actually paid to be an athlete. Like, no one's really salaried in the same way as they are for like other sports. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
oh, are they winning enough money, or are their sponsors giving them enough money so they can train full time? But even then, it's a kind of a blurry definition, right, within the kind of CrossFit and functional fitness space of who actually is a full time athlete, and what does that mean, as opposed to just like a really fit coach who's
Yeah.
who's at the games. Yeah. Okay. Um, are you keeping an eye on things like the World Fitness Project, stuff like that, looking at kind of alternatives that you'd be interested in
Yeah.
pursuing maybe next year?
Yeah. I do find very interesting what they're doing. But for me, like living here in the UAE is just not realistic to like go 2 times to the US because it's very expensive, like plane tickets and everything. And I personally don't have any sponsors that give me money.
Yeah.
So I have to pay everything from my pocket. And this was a conversation I had with my husband at the end of last year because we need to start to think about our life like as a whole. So not only the athlete life, but like our life, personal
Yeah.
life. So we can't afford do all these trips every year and still like trying to, buy
Yeah.
things that we need. So like we're looking to buy a house or we're looking to do more stuff for our future.
Do you think that's sort of based where you are now, or do you think you will be going back to Brazil? Is that kind of the where do you see your future?
We're happily based here now,
Yeah.
but we know it's not forever. So
Right.
we're definitely gonna go back to Brazil.
Okay. Yeah. Does he know that? I know
Yeah,
he's just
yeah,
behind you playing Call of Duty, so like he
yeah.
can hear you.
But yeah, he's here. So, but we have family in Brazil. Like my whole family is in Brazil. His whole family is in Brazil, and
Yeah.
his parents they don't travel by plane, so it's quite hard for him.
All right.
Yes. So that's why we want to go back to Brazil.
Yeah. Whereabouts in Brazil?
I'm sorry.
Where in Brazil? Which part of Brazil
Oh, yeah.
are they living in?
So we are from the middle of São Paulo.
Oh, okay.
So it's two small cities. I'm from Bauru, and he's from Cafelândia.
Right. Okay. See, I was going to go down. So my sister-in-law is from Brazil, but I don't know where she's from.
Oh.
But I mean,
Okay.
it's not as bad as it sounds, Julia. I know it sounds terrible, but the problem is that she started like she was together with my brother-in-law, so it's my wife's brother, and then his wife is the one from Brazil. But like their whole kind of courtship and engagement and all of that took place during like COVID. So he
Oh,
was
so
he was in Italy, she was in Brazil. They'd met when he'd gone to Brazil. They kind of had this long distance thing, and then it was very difficult for travel because of like COVID
yes.
restrictions. Now they're living in Portugal. They've just moved, so
Oh.
at least she gets to speak Portuguese every day, which is nice. Uh, but yeah, so that's why I kind of haven't really had a chance to actually spend time with them, because we're all in different. I'm in England. My wife's family are all originally from the Philippines. His wife is from Brazil. Like we're a very mixed,
This is so cool.
very mixed family. And I'm absolutely with you on like, it's the same with this. This kind of stuff I'm doing is everything comes out of my pocket, right? So, Strivey very kindly sponsoring the podcast now. Greatly appreciate that. That's helping. But that's not covering 2 trips to the US for the World Fitness Project kind of thing. And
Yes.
and I had emails from the World Fitness Project. Somehow I was added to the mailing list, which was nice. And nice to feel wanted. And they were like, oh, you can apply for the media credentials for the events. And I was like, I'm not going to any of the US events.
Yeah.
Like I might be able to go to Copenhagen. That's closer, but it's a similar, like everyone's always saying, oh, you're going to Waterpalooza. I'm like, I'm not going to Waterpalooza. Are you going to,
Exactly.
you know, and I always say, like, I don't even have the chance to win money when I go to these events because I'm not even competing. I'm just going to watch. So yeah, I understand. And like you, I've got, I've got my wife, I've got 2 kids. So you're kind of trying to
Yeah,
balance, well, what are we doing in the CrossFit fitness space, and also making sure that my kids can eat, which is
yeah,
really
that's
important.
very
They really,
important.
they think it's important. Um, so you've obviously had to, like, go through injuries a number of times. I mean, even your games appearances was 22, 24, right? So you had,
Yes.
like, time in between. Are you kind of good at managing injury and kind of dealing with, oh, I really want to be doing this, but I know I shouldn't, and like, are you well behaved? I guess is the question. Do you behave yourself? Do you listen to what your physio is saying or what the people are advising you?
I try my best.
Okay, so that's a
But it's
no.
very hard.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because let's say if I start a workout and I start to feel something, that's how my knee flared up like so fast, because I started to feel a thing and I didn't stop training at all. I just kept going because I had the games inside.
Right.
So I should have stopped it for a little bit, but I didn't. And I'm always like this because I like training. Like I was really enjoying training before the games. So for me, it was just something that would go away with like a week, but it
Yeah.
didn't. So for my shoulder was the same, for my back was the same. So I'm a little bit of hard headed.
Yeah. Didn't you hurt yourself on like a water slide?
Yeah, it was me.
Wow.
Yeah, I got many problems from this, like 2 years of pain, but it's
Yeah.
finally fixed.
Finally fixed. No more water slides, or do you
No more
still
water
enjoy water?
slides.
No, no, no more. Oh, that's a
No,
shame.
no more.
No. Now it's finally fixed. You'll be like, oh, it's finally fixed. I can go back on the water slides. Um, yeah, how did you get into, like, what were you doing before CrossFit then? How did you kind of get into fitness in general?
I was a swimmer before, like
Oh,
2017,
right.
16, 17. And I was like professional swimmer, I could say. So going to nationals, even like international competitions and everything. But the club that I used to swim, it was very, there was so much pressure on us. And I was so young, like I started with 10 years old and I stopped it with 16. And with 16, I feel like it was a very critical age
Hmm.
where they wanted like everyone to be like just a professional athlete, act and behave like a professional athlete. But like we're teenagers, we wanted to live life and do stuff, and like they didn't want us to do this, and I was doing these things. So there was a little bit of conflict in that, and I just lost the passion of swimming. Until now, I don't like to swim anymore.
Oh, really?
I think because I just used to swim too much. Like my coaches, they
Yeah.
were like very old mentality. So like I used to swim 50, 100, sometimes 200, sometimes 400. Like I used to swim a lot of things, but not very long distance in a pool. But our trainings would consist of like one session in the middle of the day of like 6K, and then another session later of like 3 or 4K. So like 10K a day for someone who's doing like 50 meters on a competition doesn't seem like
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah. There's a few extra meters there that you don't really need. Was it
Yeah,
also, did you have to do like early starts? Because that's another kind of classic thing for swimming, is like, they're
thankfully
really
no.
no, okay.
Yeah,
That's more
thankfully
here.
no.
Yeah. And so I guess I mean, you must still be a good swimmer, right? Like, you don't
Yeah,
lose that. You just don't
yeah.
want to do it.
Compared to like the other CrossFitters, I am, but I
Yeah.
just don't have the shoulder endurance anymore because like all
Uh-huh.
the muscle mass and everything, like it's heavy. So to swim, it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts both physically and mentally now to swim.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's something. It's funny, isn't it? Because we've seen that happen in CrossFit with, like, young athletes that have kind of burnt out within CrossFit, and people have been very quick to jump in and criticize and, talk about like putting too much pressure on these young athletes, and that wasn't right, and that was but I think when you compare it to like the swimming you were doing, actually in other sports, the
It's
pressure
the
that they
same.
put on these young athletes is like crazy. It's extreme. I mean, I don't even know how you did it at 10, because like I don't think I would do that now, let alone
I
let
mean,
alone at
yeah.
10.
But when I started, it was not as bad because I was still like learning. I would
Yeah.
say I got into this higher pressure environment when I was 12, 13, when I started to go to nationals. So then it was really like much more pressure.
Yeah.
And then when you go like above certain level, because we're not a big club, we're like quite small,
Mm-hmm.
but we had a lot of help from one guy, like very wealthy guy. So he was the founder of the club. So he would pay like school, food, transportation, everything. So I would go to compete, pay nothing. So that's why they put that much pressure on us. But still, it was like too much at a point that they wanted us to like put school up to the side and just focus like more on swimming. So if I had to do something for the school and it was my training time, I would have to go to training and not do what the school was telling me to do. So this was also one thing. But at the same time, I could not have bad grades.
Right.
So
Okay.
there
Yeah.
was a lot of conflict.
Yeah. And I guess that was for everyone that was at that club that was sort of doing
Yes.
what you were doing, right? And
Yes.
I guess you decided enough is enough. Others probably were like, oh yeah, I'm going all in on this. And I guess as well, if they're paying your way, like for some people, that's you know, I, I I don't know what their circumstances will have been like at home, but maybe this is like an escape, right? This is
Yeah.
if I make it big, if I become a professional athlete, if I start earning money doing that, that's my ticket out of here. That's how I'm gonna make my fortune. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and I guess when you're like what 10, you were saying you don't have the capacity to sit down and reason out how like yeah, if I'm missing school stuff and I'm not getting the education that I need in order to, and then I swim for a couple of years and then my swimming career is over.
What am I gonna
What
do?
yeah, what do I do now? I don't have anything to fall back on. I don't really understand how the rest of the world works. I just know how to swim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, so okay. Interesting. Um, how did like why swimming? Did you choose that? Was like, do you have your parents? Were any of them swimmers? Just they saw you one day in the pool and were like, she's a natural. Like, how did that decision get made?
I don't remember very well, but I remember like they just had started this project, the club, and it was quite big, like within my city. It
Right.
was because I think it was the only like sports club that it was really like thriving at the time. So, and I had some friends that they used to swim there. So my mom just said like, why don't you try? And I had to do some kind of sports. I used to do karate before,
Yeah.
karate. So, but like I was very tiny, so I don't remember that much. But I always been involved in sports. Like from
Okay.
my father's part, my family, they're all being into sports. So like all my aunties, everyone, it's into sports. So I grew up doing like moving, I think.
Which is good. I mean, are you like happy that you have that background, that your family were very active, very sporty? I mean, as a coach, you obviously see the other extreme, right? You're going to see people that come in have never moved before, really, and now you're having to kind of teach them how to use their body.
Yes, I'm quite happy to be honest, because my mom, it's very different from my father. Like my father,
Oh,
he's been doing CrossFit. He's doing the Open this year and everything. Since last year, actually, he's doing the Open, but he started training with me. So,
okay.
and my mom as well, but my mom never did anything before.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy I had this background since I was young because I see like how she suffers now to do like basic training things. So it's very hard for her and like coordination and stuff. And if she started earlier, I know like she would have a much better quality of life now.
Yeah. Is your dad, did he enjoy the Open?
Yes, he just didn't
Yeah.
like the second workout because of the
I
chest
hate the
bars.
second. I hated the second one. I remember doing that, what, like 2 years ago, and hated it then. and I hate it just as much now.
Funny enough, I didn't remember this workout like 2 years ago. I remember the first and the second workout from 2 years ago, but I didn't remember this one. I had to like search on my YouTube to see if I really did it.
Yeah. No, I
But I really
remember.
like it.
No, I remember like 2 years ago being. It was the last workout, and I remember like kind of being ill and having to go in and do it,
Oh,
and I was, you know, I'm not that strong now, but I was weaker than I am now 2 years ago, and I just remember like the thrusters feeling so heavy and really crushing me, but the like all the pull-ups and that were kind of fine. And now this year, I don't know, something's happened recently with my pull-ups, and like I've got some shoulder issues, and they're just not like the kip isn't as smooth as it was, and just nothing feels right. So the thrusters felt okay, but all the pull-ups and chest to bars and all of that were like really bad. So it's just flipped over the 2 years. I
yeah,
quite enjoyed this last workout that was the wall walks and the
yeah.
deadlifts and the cleans and that. That was more my speed. But yeah, just when I saw that come up, I was like, oh man, I still have nightmares of doing that workout 2 years ago. I don't want to redo it, and there we go.
I
But
really wanted to do this workout. I really wanted to do, but because of all the thrusters and my knee, I just
oh
didn't
yeah,
want
that's
to.
not
And
a
I
good
had
idea.
just did like a procedure on my knee, so I didn't want to risk it.
Yeah. No. Oh well, I'm glad he enjoyed it. I have to go and find him on the leaderboard later, see how well he did. I'll be like, oh okay. Is he good then? Is he good at? I mean, he's not been in CrossFit long, but you said he's been like sporty all his life. Is he an athlete?
He really likes cardio. He suffers like on gymnastics just because of his shoulder. He has like two surgeries. So like mobility and hanging on the bar is not his thing. He wants to do it, but he just cannot. It just hurts too
Yeah.
much. But other than that, he's amazing. He's too good. Like his cardio, it's so good. On the first workout, he did great. And now this last workout, he did also great. So yeah, I wish I was closer to him to like, help him a little bit more.
Yeah. Coach him for his like appearance at the Legends.
Yes. Yes.
Has he done any competitions? Is that the kind of would he do like some masters comps or something?
I think he wants to do it. Like this year, like I was just talking to him. Last year he qualified for semis and then he just didn't do it because of his shoulder, like he had a flare up. So this year he said he might do the semis, but he wants to focus on next year.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
Okay.
but he never done any competition like in
Oh.
Brazil, not yet.
I'll have to make a little note next to his name and try and like keep an eye on this guy. Like, oh, fun fact: Julia Kato's dad is in this competition. Yeah, it's
That
like
would be so cool.
that will be cool because it's kind of yeah, it's fun to see that when there is some overlap of like generations, because CrossFit's so new that
Yes.
like in the grand scheme of things that you don't get like legacy athletes like you do in other sports, but not, I guess soon you will. This will be interesting that we're getting it like in reverse, because you'll
Yeah.
have someone who comes in as like an elite individual, and then now the dad is a masters athlete. But great, it's good. I'm glad they're enjoying it. Okay, that's fun. What was going to? Oh, I had some other questions for you about. I feel like you've kind of had a lot of like it's always been turbulent for you, kind of trying to get to the games and things like that. Like it's never seemed like the most pleasant experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because was it the 2022 games when like there were reports of like PEDs or something? Was that before the first time you went to the games, right? That like
Yes.
somebody, yeah, there was false accusation, like clearly not true, but like there were just rumors swelling, and then you were getting contacted by outlets and stuff, like, and then
Yeah,
this
it
year,
was a little bit frustrating.
yeah. Well, I think you said that you made a comment that I thought was quite interesting, because you were talking about obviously like also because of where you were coming from, that it was kind of just accepted, like before any evidence was presented, before anyone actually saw stuff, just like, yeah, okay, oh, she's from Brazil, yeah, then must be true. So I mean, like at that point, but like at that point you stuck with it, right? You didn't kind of say, okay, I don't want to be a part of this community. Like I don't like them. You kind of, you put out your statements. You made, people discovered that it wasn't the case. And what actually happened? Do you know how the rumor started, or?
Yes, I know how it started. So there's apparently at the time there was a Discord chat with like people from the CrossFit media from all around the world, and someone from the US that it's like reputable
Right.
said that someone from South America got on PEDs, got popped on doping.
Yeah.
And I don't know why everyone came into a conclusion it was me, apparently because like they didn't know if it was someone that qualified or not. So they automatically thought it was someone that qualified for the games. And for South America, it was only two qualifying, and I was the second place. And the first
Right.
place was from Mayhin. So, like, I don't know what's the deal, but no one's from Mayhin can get caught on PEDs, apparently. So, yeah, but it ended up being the girl in third place.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Yeah, I wasn't on that Discord server. I wasn't important enough media back then, I guess. But
I don't know if
that's
it still
interesting.
exists, but
I
it
don't know.
might exist. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go hunt it down. Okay. Yeah, that explains a lot, though. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, the last year it was like battling injury, right, to kind of get back to it, and then the games itself
Yes.
not being the most pleasant experience you could have imagined. Yeah, so I guess the question is like, how do you deal with all of that? How do you just keep going and stay? Because you always seem positive and happy, but kind of what's the secret?
I do a lot of therapy. I have my therapist.
On
But
speed dial,
yeah,
call them every
yeah.
day.
But I always try to look to the brighter side, to be honest, because I put in my head that I'm doing this because I like it. So when it starts to not be something I don't enjoy anymore, like it was, let's say 3 months ago, 2 months ago, I just like lowered the volume of training. I was just doing whatever I wanted. I was doing my own programming. If I feel like training with someone, I would go and train with someone. So I just try to look to the good side, not trying to bring negative stuff to me because I don't feel like it's good for us, like mentally, spiritually, these things.
So how do you kind of foresee, obviously you've got the high rocks coming up, you've got like the injury that you're dealing with, you're talking about trying to secure your future with your husband, make sure that the decisions you make align with like realistic expectations and goals and things you want to achieve. So like, let's jump ahead 2 years, injuries kind of managed now. If you still don't find that joy in competing that you had, like what's the plan for Julia at that point?
I want to have a kid. I want to get pregnant. So like somewhere between this year and next year.
Right.
So hopefully I would be still training. I don't know if for compete or not, but still like being because I work with the fitness industry here anyways. So, and I told myself I want to focus more in the competitions around here because I know everyone. Everyone knows me. I love the community here. So I just wanted to be more involved here with things. Apart from like not doing the competitions here because I don't want to get hurt or I don't want to do the competitions here because I am hurt.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll be focusing more on the GCC region
Right.
and with a kid, maybe.
Yeah. So is it nice for you when you see other athletes that have gone away, had children, come back? Is that quite comforting for you to be like, oh, that is a path that is open to me. I can, not have it all, but I mean, I can do what I want to do, and that's not me like ending my athletic career, but there, I can train up to, during, and then, maybe a little break and then back into it and still compete at a very high level. Like, does that make you happy to see others doing that?
Yes, for sure. For sure. Because like for me, when I was like, let's say 2022, when I really wanted to qualify for the games and I was very like into training, like I was even overtraining, but I was like, okay, I'll just have a kid, or just get pregnant once I stop training to compete. But then you see like all these high level athletes having kids and then getting back into it. So it gives me a little bit more of a comfort. So for
Yeah.
now, I'm okay with the idea of getting pregnant now.
You're okay with
Because
the
I was
idea.
scared
That's fine.
before. Yeah, I was scared before.
Hey, it's scary. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as a obviously like what I like with what you're saying are kind of as well of like you want to really be a part of the community where you are. You coach, you want to go to kind of competitions where people know you, where you know them. Um, Also then having that experience like down the line of being like, well, she's also because I think about like what kind of people come to get fit, like who is coming in and being like, oh, I want to train, I want to get fit. Quite often it is people that have had kids and they're like, I used to be, I mean, I'm like, is my wife listening? It doesn't matter. Like I know for us, like we started CrossFit because she went from being someone who was very active, cycled to work, and like we lived in Venice for years, which meant lots of steps and walking everywhere, like very very active. Then less active. We had a kid, less active still, and then she was like, "Oh, I'm not happy now with kind of where I am fitness wise," and that's how we discovered CrossFit. Was like we were out looking for something, um, and the one of the coaches when we started at CrossFit, she was like heavily pregnant at the time. And I've not done CrossFit before. Like we've just started, we've done the intro, we're now going into the classes, and I am watching this. When she's not coaching, but she's just doing one of the classes, watching this like heavily pregnant woman just absolutely destroy a workout that I'm struggling to do. And you're like, wow, this is another level. Like, what's going on here? But and now that coach had that baby. She's had another kid since then, and she's even gone back. Like we had there's a competition, Strength in Depth Origins. It's like a 12-person team competition, and she was one of the people on the team. So it's like for the members, they've seen her go through that, come back, and now still be one of the fittest people at the box. And you can bet when people have questions about like recovery after pregnancy and things like that, that's who they're going to because she's lived it. So I think as a coach, it kind of makes you like this well-rounded voice of experience, right? At
Yeah,
least I
for
think.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially here because like for women's like Emirati women's, it's
Mm,
not very normal for them to do any kind of fitness. Like they're usually like just stay at home and they have to take care of the house, of the
mm,
kids and everything. And now this is much better. Like from when I arrived here, from 2021 until now, like the fitness culture here, it's growing much bigger.
yeah.
So I think, and I very often get messages or people coming to me to say like you're a great inspiration for me, and so I find this really nice, and I hope like I can help much more people with this.
Have you found quite a big? So it's interesting. You're seeing like the change over the years that you've been there. When you first coming from Brazil to where you are now, like was that quite a culture shock? Kind of learning how to deal with, yeah, as you said, people that maybe aren't used to kind of just being as free to come and do like what you were doing back home. Like did that take some getting used to?
Yes, to be honest, yes, because I arrived in another city, so and it's a much more local city,
Right.
much different from Abu Dhabi. So like the training culture there, it was almost non-existent. Like it's still like the gym that I used to work, like one of the only gyms in the city, and it's a huge city. So and like we don't have here they divide. So it's like women's they can work out with men sometimes if the family allows. They
Yeah.
can work out with men, but they need to cover like the arms and the hair and everything. And we used to have one ladies only class in the CrossFit space, and it was like very hard because they were not consistent, and then they would like some of them had to stop training because they were getting too tired and the husband didn't want her to work out anymore and this kind of thing. So it was quite of a shock, to be honest.
Mm.
But you get used to it. Like now I get used to it.
Yeah. So now do you have more like, I guess, is it more common to have bigger like female, like women only classes? Do you have more of them going as kind of things are progressing, or is it tend to be that mixed class that sort of is the more common, or is, you
The
know?
Yeah, so the mixed class it's still the more common. I would say like in the gyms that I coach, we do have I coach in a F45 gym, so we do
Mhm.
have one ladies only class. And in the CrossFit gym, there's no more ladies only class, so they just come together with the men's and everything.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, like they're at least the families are more open to like a woman training with men, even though she is like covered, but she's in a space with men.
Yeah. And do they enjoy that? Like, do they, I mean, I think about like the local affiliate here where I go and kind of the community element of, and I feel like within CrossFit, that's such a big part of the gym is the kind of, oh, so like I go at 8 p.m. I know the 8 p.m. class and I know who they are and I know what's going on in their lives. And, you see them when you don't see them, you're like, oh, that's odd. Where are they? So like community is something that is kind of promoted as such a big part of the CrossFit experience. Is that the same there, or because there are these kind of, well, the family have to be okay even with you just training together? Is it a little bit more, uh, not quiet, but like, is the community still vibrant and thriving, or is it quite different from what we would be used to in other parts?
No, I think we're like thriving here. Like definitely we have some very nice communities, like some classes very like consistent. So yeah, I would say it's kind of at least here in Abu Dhabi, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like in the previous city that I used to work, I'm not sure how it is now, but like here in Abu Dhabi, much different
yeah,
because it's much more international. So the locals here they're more open.
yeah. Yeah, they're seeing kind of what's going on, and they can compare and contrast quite easily. And it's not just, oh, I imagine it's like this or here it's like that. So that's right. Um, when you go back to Brazil, I feel like Brazil is quite passionate about CrossFit, and in general is the impression I get. Um, what's your experience like going back? Like, do people know who you are? Are you, like a recognizable name in Brazil now, or has Guy stolen all of that and everybody just knows who he is?
No, like it's very yeah, I would say like I'm very known in Brazil in the CrossFit space. So like in my city, everyone in CrossFit space is like they know who am I. Especially like when my father goes to another places to work out, they're all like, "Oh, you're like Julia's father, like you're famous. Your daughter is famous." So it's very cool. It's very nice.
Yeah. Does it bleed out of the CrossFit culture? 'Cause I just think I think about how small our bubble is sometimes, and we're like, everybody knows who Matt Fraser is. Everybody knows who Rich Froning is. And then you could just walk down the street and ask anybody, and they're like, I have no idea who you're talking about. Like, what is it? But within the CrossFit world, like, oh, everybody knows that. With it being quite, big in Brazil, like, does it spill over to kind of people that are like, oh yeah, does it get, I guess, does it get reported like on local news when you're at the games, for example? Like, it spreads beyond simply being CrossFit focused.
Yeah, I would say like in my city, it gets out of the bubble. Like me myself, I do get a little bit out of the CrossFit bubble. But like in Brazil in general, I don't think so. Just because like it's just too many people and
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, CrossFit
That's a
is
good point.
very famous. Like CrossFit is very famous, but at the same time like it's still a bubble.
Yeah, it's not football, or
Yeah, it's
it's
not
not like,
football, but it's very different from like let's say in the place that we travel to, people often ask like what do? You have this like muscular body, and I say I do CrossFit, and they're like, what is CrossFit? Like
right,
what is this? And like most of the places that we go, whereas like in Brazil, if I say that I do CrossFit, everyone knows what CrossFit is.
right,
So
yeah. So they don't know who you are. They don't know who Rich Froning is, but they know
yeah,
what CrossFit is. They're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's enough box ticked. You don't have to follow up with, okay, and what's CrossFit? Well, it's and
Yeah.
what do you mean you do CrossFit? Like, how do you do that professionally? Because, well, they have these big competitions and events like that. Okay, that's nice. So I guess the question earlier was, if you don't find the joy anymore on the competition floor, like, what are you going to do? And it's, have a kid, be a great coach, enjoy life. If you come back from injury and you're like, man, I love competing again. I get a real buzz from, being on the competition floor, going against the best of the best. Is there like a different avenue that you see yourself pursuing, or do you think shrinking it down and being more local is the way forward? Or is there still the kind of idea of, well, if I can make, I'd like to make another shot for the games, or I'd like to make a shot at, WFP or some other, I don't know, Rogue, for example, something like that?
I mean, it all depends on like the future. It's been, for me, it looks like very unclear on what's gonna happen. Like, I was definitely like not happy with everything that was happening from CrossFit HQ and how they dealt with the games last year and everything. So I'm really not sure. But like the way things are right now, I'm not happy with it. So I
Yeah.
don't think about pursuing this anymore, to be honest, on the
Okay.
way things are right now.
So we'll wait and see. I mean,
Yeah,
things have changed a bit. Things are changing, and it looks like things are going to change even
big.
more so,
So yes,
if they sell and things like that. So it will be interesting to see. Kind of, I guess everybody's in a little bit of a like wait and see what happens.
exactly.
And you've just got a kind of convenient. Well, I've got to wait anyway because of this injury. Maybe you'll just go full time. Do you think about things like changing and going like full time high rocks? You're like, oh, I'm going to do a high rocks for fun. Oh man, I really enjoyed that. I could do more of these. Is that like,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, if I like it, why not?
yeah? Or would you like try other kind of like dip your toe in other sort of? Because I get the impression that you do love fitness and you love moving and just
Yes.
being. So I mean, there's other kind of, you've got your CrossFit events, you've got your high rocks. We've talked of like WFP and big other things like that, but you've also got kind of like here in the UK now we've got Affex as well, which is like popping up all over the place, and it's how do I explain Affex? I'm gonna actually go to one to try and like document how it works because it's kind of interesting, but it's similar to high rocks in that it is like fixed, but it's fixed for a year. So this year it
Oh,
runs like this, and they have it's like free zones. It's a strength zone, so they'll have, it will be like a 5 rep max back squat and a something else, and a, I don't know, shoulder press, like, and you've got to get your your highest numbers on these two lifts.
yeah.
Then you get a little break, and then there's a endurance piece, and it will be like on a rower or an air runner or something like that. You do whatever, whatever it is, max meters in 20 minutes, or I don't know, whatever they've set up this year. Another little break, and then there's kind of like a Metcon type thing. I think I saw one at FitFest, and I think it was like maybe dumbbell snatches and burpees and box jumps or something like that. So like a kind of Metcon piece, and maybe that's done as like kind of an AMRAP or something like that, I guess, because it's all sort of strict to time. And then like
Yeah.
that's it. And then they do that same, so they take that to multiple locations, and then they have a big final at the end. So that's like another kind of. So I know they had the finals at FitFest, but I think they've got one coming up in Cardiff. They've had one, you know, another one in Birmingham. But you see more and more of these kind of things. So like you could
Yes.
just be kind of almost every couple of months trying a different, just
A
like,
different thing. Yes.
yeah, just trying a different thing and saying, okay, do I enjoy this? Yeah. Is there a bit of prize money, or is this something that, my sponsors are happy to see me doing because it gets my name out there? Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
think about these things. Here we have a lot of fitness races.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like primal race that it's getting big now in the GCC region. We have the precision series. We have a lot of Spartan races and these kind of things like obstacle courses. It's not something that I enjoy that much because I just don't think I'm that good, and I'm scared of like this jumping and hanging and everything.
And remember,
But
you
we
got
do
injured
have
going down a water slide. So
exactly, that's the thing. Not
so
too much. I'm not very athletic.
yeah. Did you did they have the obstacle course in 2022 at the games? Did you have to do that?
No, but I had to do in the Dubai Fitness Championship. Both
Right,
times
yeah.
that I did it, like the first one was a short one, and last year was the long one.
Did you enjoy that?
That one was fun
Okay.
because there was nothing like you have to jump from one bar to another, like not this kind of
No.
things. So it was like okay, but like when you have to like do these jumps, like last year I didn't like that much because it
No.
was way too much hanging and swinging and jumping. So not my cup of tea.
No. You're just like too many risks for me to fall off and hurt myself doing this.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And do you ever think about just becoming like a professional gamer with your husband, and you guys just go full time on gaming? Is that an alternative?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because also like after the games from last year, I was very into Call of Duty, so I was playing
Oh,
like
really?
nonstop. Yes. So I get like hyper focus on something and I just like do nonstop for like some time until I get tired of it. So that
Yeah.
was my now I'm not playing that much, so maybe in the future.
I know. I'm really I'm like toying with buying a new system, and there's like part of me that's like, oh, but I do know if I do this, I'm already so stretched for time with like all the real world life stuff I have to do plus this, and then
Yes.
it's like, oh, do I really want to start also, trying to? And I've pulled out my PlayStation 4 and I've been playing that a bit more, and I'm like, oh, you really kind of maybe just. So if you start seeing like these podcasts disappear, you'll know that
I know what happened.
I got distracted. No, it won't happen. Anyway, Julia, I know it's getting very late where you are. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you and seeing kind
Thank
of.
you very much.
I look forward to seeing what you do decide to do in the future, and I will check in and see how your High Rocks goes. When is that? Did you say April? No,
April. Yeah, 12 of
April.
April, if I'm not mistaken.
12th of April. Okay, so and you said you were going to win that, right? I think that's what you said. Okay, that was.
Let's see.
Let's see. What's the level of competition like there? Are there people like flying in for it, or is it going to be more local, do you think?
To be honest, for this one, I think it's going to be more local, just because Sharjah is not a big emirate. Like for the Dubai one, I know there was some people flying over, but for this one, I'm not really sure. And especially
Okay.
because we're going to have Abu Dhabi. So I think people rather do Abu Dhabi than Sharjah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a good opportunity for you. So
Yeah,
go in, destroy this one, fix the knee, and then get ready to
then we see.
conquer Abu Dhabi as well. All right. Well, Julia, thank you so much. Also, thank your husband in the background for letting us have so much of your time. Thank you, everybody that popped in and watched. And if you're watching this afterwards, thank you as well. I will be back hopefully next week with another guest. And yeah, I look forward to seeing some of you then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.